Good afternoon, students. Hope you are staying at your homes and you are all safe. Let's continue our discussion on educational research under the course 2.2.3. I am your teacher, Dr. Kaustuv Bhattacharya. My email address and WhatsApp number are given for necessary communication. We all know that research is and should always be central to how we function as a successful and productive society. In this backdrop, educational researches are research studies that involve the application of the scientific method to educational topics, phenomena, or questions. Now, the word paradigm is used to designate the shared framework which defines the problems, methods, and solutions acceptable to a research community. There are basically three paradigms of educational research as depicted in this figure. One is quantitative research, another one is qualitative research, and third one is combined research, combination of quantitative research methodologies, qualitative research methodologies are there. Now, the combined research can be further subdivided into mixed methods research and action research. Mixed methods, there is an S after method in mixed methods research and action research. Now, quantitative research. Quantitative research is a type of research in which the researcher studies a problem that calls for an explanation about variables, decides what to study, asks specific narrow questions, collects quantifiable data from participants, analyze these numbers using statistics and graphs, and conducts the inquiry in an unbiased, objective manner. So, quantitative research studies emphasize numeric data and statistical analysis to explain variables. There are certain signal words for quantitative research from which we can determine whether a particular research report is from the paradigm of quantitative research or not. These signal words act like the action verbs that you have read in your B.Ed classes. So, some of the good signal words for quantitative research are experiment, correlation, survey, etc. There are also signal words in the quantitative research paradigm that indicate numeric data, such as variables, factors, measures, survey instruments, etc. There are also words that indicate mathematical analysis, such as statistics, differences, comparisons, associations, etc. Again, in qualitative research paradigm, it is indicated that this is a type of research in which the researcher studies a problem that calls for an exploration of a phenomenon, relies on the views of participants. It is important, it is very important, relies on the views of participants, asks broad general questions, collects data consisting largely of words or text from participants, describes and analyzes those words for themes, and conducts the inquiry in a subjective and reflexive manner. This is an important characteristic of qualitative research. The whole research is conducted in a subjective and reflexive manner of the researcher. So, qualitative research studies emphasize text data and thematic analysis to explore a phenomenon. There are also good signal words for quantitative research as there are in qualitative research. The signal words for qualitative research are, this should be qualitative, it is a typographical error. So, good signal words for qualitative research are narrative, case study, ethnography, and grounded theory. There are also certain words that indicate narrative or text-based data, such as one-on-one interview, focus group interview, transcription, and observation field notes. There are also words that indicate textual analysis, such as themes, content analysis, and description. Now, there are three types of educational research which we have to discuss in this course. They are fundamental research, applied research, and action research. Now, what is a fundamental research? Fundamental research is a type of research which has the aim to improve understanding or prediction of natural or other phenomena. Now, you prepare any two examples from the educational field which indicates that those two examples are from fundamental research in education. Now, what is an applied research? Applied research is a type of research which is used to solve a specific practical issue affecting a system like education. Here again, you are to prepare 2 examples of applied research from the educational field. Another important type of research is action research. Action researches are systematic procedures done by practitioners to gather quantitative and or qualitative data to improve the ways their particular professional setting operates, their practice, and also their impact on others. Therefore, the focus of an action research is on a real problem in a local setting. Here, practitioners themselves, they perform action research. As for example, a teacher in a school can perform action research for his or her class. An administrator can perform action research. So these are basically real problems, not theoretical problems, and those problems are to be solved for their application on a local setting. We cannot generalize the findings from action research. So, formal research typically uses the literature to identify and justify a research problem that affects many individuals. In contrast, the problem in an action research study is one that is being faced by a single practitioner or a single organization. This is important to know the basic differences between the other 2 researches and action research. So you have to again prepare 2 examples of action research from the educational field, and you can share your examples with me via my email address or WhatsApp number. The details are given at the bottom of the title slide. You can revert back to the title slide and you can have those contact details. So, what are the types of action research? There are basically 2 types of action research. One is practical action research and another one is participatory action research. This participatory action research is commonly abbreviated as PAR. P for Punjab, A for Amritsar, R for Rajasthan. PAR. So you can also write it down, participatory action research within parenthesis PAR. So practical action research, it studies the problems in local practices. It uses individual or team-based inquiry. It implements a plan of action. And finally, it leads to the practitioner as a researcher. While in PAR or participatory action research, social issues that constrain individual lives are studied. So, the fundamental point in PAR or participatory action research is that certain social issues are addressed there. While in practical action research, the scope is limited because only the local practices, problems in local practices are studied there. In participatory action research, again, equal collaboration from the participants of that part are emphasized. It focuses on life enhancing changes which ultimately results in changes in the community. So these are the basic two types of action researches and their fundamental characteristics. Now, what are the assumptions of scientific method? The origin of the scientific method dates back to 1938. If we can recall that the sources of acquiring knowledge, scientific method was indicated as a source of acquiring knowledge. Now, a little bit about that scientific method. So, in 1938, American philosopher John Dewey, very well known to us, John Dewey, described the process, that means described scientific method, as a procedure for thinking more objectively. The scientific method consists of a systematic, step-by-step set of procedures that are employed to objectively investigate some sort of phenomenon and answer specific questions about it. Dewey presented the process of scientific method in the following steps: please write it down. Clarify the main question inherent in the problem. Second point, state a hypothesis, within parentheses, that is a prediction of a possible answer to the question, bracket closed. Third step, collect, analyze and interpret information related to the question such that it will allow you to provide an answer to that question. Fourth step, form conclusions derived from the interpretations of your analysis. And the final step of the scientific method following Dewey is use your conclusions to verify or reject your original hypothesis. So there are certain assumptions of scientific method. First one is, scientific method assumes that there is no intelligent design to the universe. Most of the phenomena in the universe occur following a random pattern. A random pattern. This is important. Scientific method begins with the assumption that in all likelihood, observed phenomena are not causally related. There is no cause and effect relationship. And then tries to detect some causal relationship. First, scientific method first assumes that there is no causal relationship, then tries to detect some causal relationship. Science does that by following a very strict formalized process. First, formulate a null hypothesis, then devise a series of repeatable, this is important, observable experiments. Then calculate the probability that the null hypothesis is supported by the observed pattern, which has greater than random probability of occurring. That means we calculate statistically whether the difference or the relationship is significant or not, and through this calculation ultimately either we accept a null hypothesis or we don't accept that null hypothesis. So this is basically the assumptions of scientific method. Now, when describing a phenomenon, science aims at being parsimonious. It stops with the explanation as soon as a satisfactory description has been reached. Now, the steps of a scientific method. First one is to identify a problem, then clarify the main question inherent in the problem, then state a hypothesis, then collect, analyze and interpret information related to the question such that it will allow you to provide an answer to that question, form conclusions derived from the interpretations of your analysis, and finally use your conclusions to verify or reject your original hypothesis. Now, aims of research as a scientific activity. Obviously, the first aim of research as a scientific activity is to specify the topic about which a concern exists. Then, clarifying the specific problem on which the research will focus. Then, formulating research questions and/or hypotheses concerning the specific problem or topic. Conducting procedures by which data are collected, analyzed and interpreted. Stating the findings that are generated as a result of the analysis of data, and finally drawing conclusions related to the original research question and or hypothesis. These things are self-explanatory. Therefore, what are the characteristics of research as a scientific activity? Educational research is scientific because it is objective and unbiased. This is very important. To be a scientific method, a method should be objective and unbiased. As educational research follows objective and unbiased methodologies, therefore these researches are scientific. Educational research begins with a question or problem which serves as the purpose or goal of a study. It requires the formulation of a specific plan for conducting the research. It requires the collection, analysis and interpretation of data as a means of answering the inherent question or problem under investigation. So, by performing educational research, researchers don't give random answers. They collect, analyze and interpret data, and on the basis of that interpretation, they try to answer the inherent question or problem. In most cases, educational research tends to be cyclical or helical as opposed to linear. So, an educational research leads to another educational research in a cyclical or helical manner. It doesn't end at a particular point. Educational research is by its very nature inquisitive, objective and original. It should be beneficial, meaningful and significant for the society. Now, what are the steps in an educational research? Write it down. First one is identifying a research problem. As this is a scientific method, obviously there are similarities. So first one would be identifying a research problem. Second one, reviewing the literature. Third, specifying a purpose. Fourth one, choosing a research design. Why we have to choose? Because there are many options, more than one options to choose from. So there are several research designs to address a particular research problem, and we have to choose a research design. Then the fifth step would be selecting participants and collecting data. Sixth point would be analyzing those data and reporting the results. Seventh point, drawing conclusions. And eighth and final point would be disseminating and evaluating the research. Dissemination of research is also very important, so that it contributes to the knowledge pool already existing in your field of research. That will be considered as your contribution to the field, to that particular field. Now, these are the steps of an educational research. Now, this topic, ethical considerations in educational research, is very close to my heart. Basically, there are 4 points on which we can discuss ethical considerations in educational research. First one is protection from harm. Second one, voluntary and informed participation in the research. Third one, right to privacy. And the fourth one would be honesty. With professional colleagues. So, bit elaboration of these terms. Unnecessary and atypical physical or psychological harms, like undue stress, embarrassment, etc., should be avoided by the researcher while performing educational research. I repeat, unnecessary and atypical, which is not typical, which is not normal. Physical or psychological harms like undue stress, embarrassment, etc., should be avoided by the researcher while performing an educational research. These undue stress may cause harms to the participants. So protection should be there from these type of harms. Second one, voluntary and informed participation. That means there should be informed consent. Informed participants should be informed about the basic points of your research, and they should participate voluntarily. They should not be under any kind of force to participate in an educational research. So we can have their participation, voluntary participation, through either informed consent or informed assent. There are two terms, consent and assent. Consent can only be given by the participants who are adult. That means who are over 18 years of age. But in case of minors, that means the participants having age less than 18, they cannot give consents on their own. on their behalf, either their parents or the local guardians or the teachers. They have to give the consent to include them in an educational research. This permission from the guardians or the participants themselves can be obtained either through informed consent or through informed assent. Assent in case of minor participants. That means participants having age less than 18. And the final point with the participants is right to privacy. This can be achieved through providing assurance of anonymity and or confidentiality. Now, what is anonymity? Anonymity is when the identities of the participants are kept hidden from the researcher. This has the potential to infuse more objectivity in an educational research, because even the research don't know details about the participants. This is called anonymity of the participants. And another term is confidentiality. Here the researcher knows the identities of the participants, but they do not disclose that information to people outside the research study. Mostly in educational research, these confidentiality of the participants are followed and individual identities of the participants are not disclosed. Now finally, honesty with the professional colleagues. That means researchers must report the findings without intentionally misleading others. Data should not be fabricated to support a preconceived conclusion. Similarly, conclusions should not be manipulated in an attempt to please or give comfort to research audience. Then the ultimate objective of scientific method is lost if we don't follow this honesty with our professional colleagues, if we don't report the true results of our findings, and on the contrary, if we manipulate or make an attempt to please certain research audience, then it is unethical. Now, scope of educational research. Now, this should be your home assignment. If you have to prepare a term paper, or if you have to submit an assignment in this course 2.2.3, I would like to give this as an topic, as a home assignment for either submission as an assignment itself or submission as a term paper under the course 2.2.3. Prepare scope of educational research with proper citations of your references, either as references itself or as a bibliography. Thank you for lending me your ears. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you. If you have any queries, you are free to communicate with me via my email address or my WhatsApp number, which you can have from the title slide itself. Have a nice day.